I'm Caroline Romo, the Executive Director of the New Mexico Beef Council, and this is our new podcast. I'll probably have to stop calling it new one of these days, but we are here outside of Tucumcari, New Mexico with Justin Knight. Justin, will you introduce yourself and maybe your operation and yeah.
Sure. Well, glad to be here. I'm Justin Knight. I'm a relatively new board member, going on a year and a half now, from Tucumcari, New Mexico. We're a cow-calf producer, and we've got some other businesses that we do here as well, locally.
Awesome. And so how long has your family been ranching, and like kind of some of the history of the ranch? I know you were giving it to me as we were traveling through the truck, sure. But yeah, what's the background?
So I'll start with my background. My parents were not in production agriculture growing up, but I was in 4-H and we showed animals and that kind of thing, and I showed horses, and was showing horses underneath a gal there in Silver City where I grew up, and they had a family ranch. And as we were training and riding, they could see that I had a love for it, and they asked if I would help them start working on the ranch. I was about 13. So I started working with them, and anytime I wasn't in school, I was out at their place. And it was called Frank's Ranch. The family was Pete and Carolyn Seguya, and their daughter that did the horse showing with me was Kathy Greeman. And that's the mother-in-law of Michelle Greeman, the former Cowbells president. So anyway, Cheryl and I got married in college. We met in college and got married our junior year. Married into a ranching family. When we got out of grad school, we took a job. I took an ag teaching job back in her hometown at her high school that she graduated out of, teaching ag so that we could live on the family ranch. We sold that ranch in 2006 and moved here to Quay County, purchasing this ranch. And her parents have graciously let us partner with them. And we've recently moved our home. We're building a home here on this ranch here.
I think that's really neat too, especially you didn't come from the ranching background necessarily, but you are thriving in it now, right?
Yeah. It's just a lifestyle that gets into your blood, and it's an addiction, and you either love it or hate it, and we all love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. As you have to. So, what's the most rewarding part of being a rancher?
You put in long days and lots of sweat, equity, but just the satisfaction, as you saw as we drove around looking at the baby calves, knowing that you're doing something with a natural resource, and you're helping to feed the world. It's just very gratifying.
I know working in the beef industry and being a part of it is neat to be just a tiny part, right? You have such an important role of feeding the world, but just to kind of work for you guys is it's an honor, right?
It is an honor.
What a great mission.
And we all get attached to our animals and our horses and all of that. It's a lifestyle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And seeing a cow have another great calf or whatever, that's a special special thing. You guys were pointing them out to me. So what's something, obviously we are calling this podcast Behind the Burger, so we're telling the story behind the beef on our burgers. What's something, or how can you talk about how you care for your livestock? How do you ensure their health and well-being for someone who doesn't understand, maybe?
So, this last 2 weeks of weather is a prime example. We've had a major cold spell come in, and I have a job. I own an insurance agency here in Tucumcari, so I have an office job as well to help subsidize our income. So we were out, I was out helping break ice in the morning so the cattle can have something to drink. At 7 o'clock in the morning, breaking 5-6 inches of ice so on the stock tanks so they can ensure that they have water. So those are some of the things that we have to do, making sure on a daily basis that they have what they need to live, and sometimes it's not in the best weather.
Yeah, absolutely, making those personal sacrifices to keep the cattle healthy. What's one thing most people don't know about raising beef?
Kind of back to that previous answer is some of the things that we give up, the luxuries that we give up to be able to have those animals, and for our family, we have to work multiple jobs to be able to subsidize. So there's a lot of time sacrifice in things that we're having to do so that we can have that ranch and make sure that it stays within the family.
Yeah. What about how does New Mexico's landscape and climate shape your ranching practices?
Sure. So I mean, the big thing in New Mexico is this drought. We're continually having to look at, where our rainfall patterns are, having a normal. It's just here recently there's not a real normal, so we're having to readjust our stocking rates. So the drought is the big thing that we have to deal with. Where, when the rains come, how much grass we're producing, so that we're taking care of the land, not overgrazing it, and taking care of our animals, making sure they have enough. So that's just a constant we have to deal with year in and year out.
Absolutely. And I know you talked about you used to live on the farm and had farming, and I think that's something that's interesting about ranching to me is that you have to be a steward of the land, and you're also farming grass.
That's right.
That's a big part of it.
That's our crop.
Yeah. That's awesome. What about, so I guess that kind of leads to the next question, and maybe we kind of already answered it, but talk about the land and resource management and how, which I guess you kind of already understood, but is there anything else about land and resource management?
Just the land is what we have to work with. That's our asset that we have to take care of, so that we can ensure that we grow the grass, that we from year to year to year, we don't damage the grass production by overgrazing, and be able to grow our calves to be able to sell and market. So, the land is what we have to work with, and that's what we're protecting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you were telling me in the truck too about moving water to the top of the mesa so that you can spread the cattle out and use more of your land. That's a big deal. What is your biggest challenge?
Challenge as a producer?
Yeah, in your operation. Yeah. What's the biggest because we talked about what's the most rewarding, but what's the biggest challenge?
So to me, it's also, once again, those goals that you have in your herd, trying to keep your numbers where you want them, and then you come up and have a really dry year or multiple dry years, so then you have to reduce that herd. It's just a challenge maintaining that correct number where you're sustainable and not having to sell cattle off every year or go back and buy cattle when the market's really high. So it's just that's a big challenge, and a lot of it is all driven by the grass production, thus the rainfall.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite thing about the beef industry as a whole?
Well, I like the culture. I like the people. I mean, that is something that there's just the best people are in the beef industry, and just come to love the whole aspect of it. Got many friends throughout the state and neighboring states. The culture is something that I really have become very fond of.
Awesome. I agree. I think especially in New Mexico too. I've been welcomed into the beef industry, and it's suddenly I have a bunch more family members.
And it's unbelievable how small that family is.
Yeah.
It's large, but it's small.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Like you said, you've mentioned names, and I said, oh, so and so said they're related to so and so, and
that's right.
That's awesome. What about? So why do you do what you do? What makes you keep going, and what makes you continue to break ice when it was -9 on Monday and all that?
It's just the love of the industry, the love of the lifestyle. You can have a terrible day at the office. You come out, pull out by yourself, go to get your horse saddled, and the world's all right again. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. But that gives you goosebumps, right? To think about that. That's awesome. So what's your favorite thing that the checkoff dollars or the Beef Council, this one feels a little self-serving, but what's your favorite thing that the checkoff's doing, or what's something maybe you hope we start doing, or obviously that we've talked about? Or
I've known about the checkoff for a long time. Didn't know exactly what it did, how important it actually is to sustain the industry. So one of the things that I'm excited about is the way that we are starting to reach people. This podcast today is an example of that, how we are actively trying to get our information out and educate folks about what the dollar does, the checkoff dollar does, and how vital it is to our industry.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't know if now is the time or place necessarily, but the checkoff explanation, we do have an explanation on our website. Sure. So if someone's listening and doesn't know what we refer to on the checkoff, it's on our website. I think it's in the Cattleman's Corner, and we talk about every animal that's sold, we get about $2, and $1.50 stays in New Mexico for marketing and education.
That's right.
And we're all still learning, right? It's a complicated process, but we'll try and explain it if anybody has questions.
You bet. Yeah, and I encourage everyone to visit that. It's some great information, and like I said, once again, I think there's a lot of us out there. We've heard about checkoff. We know that it's there, but we don't really know exactly what it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're an open book. We'll try and explain it. I'm still learning, but I'll do my best to explain it. So yeah, our website is nmbeef.com. And then I'm not going to put my cell phone on the podcast, but it's out there. If you need, call me. I'm over here assuming we're gonna go viral. Positive thinking. What about? Is there anything else that you'd like to add about your operation or the beef industry? Just something maybe as we were driving in the truck talking, or when we were preparing for this, of what you kind of want to share.
Oh, I just think that the beef industry is vital to New Mexico, the economy we have. I think we're here for a long time. There are battles that we have to face in many ways. There are other interests there, but I'm excited for the beef industry in New Mexico. I'm excited for leaderships that we have in our beef industry organizations. I just think we've got a bright future. It's not going to always be easy, but I think we've got a bright future.
Awesome. So I was going to ask too, if you have a favorite recipe or your favorite way to eat beef.
Well, recipes, I'm pretty vanilla, but my favorite way to eat beef is a grilled ribeye.
Okay.
I mean, can't beat that.
Yeah, and what temperature?
Medium rare.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's
no other way to eat it there, right?
Right. Although I've been telling people, actually you can eat it however you want. We're just glad you're eating it.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, the traditional, the way I will order a ribeye is always medium rare. Man. Yeah, especially if there's people around, right?
That's right.
No, that's awesome. Okay. And then so that kind of wraps up the traditional podcast, but we also had a conversation. March is National Nutrition Month. And so the theme of National Nutrition Month is food connects us.
That's right.
And what does that mean to you when you hear that food connects us? What does that mean?
In so many ways, where do you do your best conversations? It's over a meal. So I think that connection is huge. And then other ways as well, as we were talking earlier about how we like things prepared or what we like to eat, good meals that we've had. So I think food connects everyone.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for joining the podcast, and we appreciate what you do for the beef industry and for your land and livestock. And thank you so much.
Well, we thank you. We appreciate you. Excited for the council.
Thanks. Behind the Burger is a podcast produced by the New Mexico Beef Council with the goal of telling the stories of the cattlemen and cattlewomen of the New Mexico beef industry. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. If you would like more information, please visit nmbeef.com. Whether it be a burger, a steak, or another beef dish, we hope you are enjoying beef at your next meal.